Finance union SASBO has expressed concern over the way Absa has handled CEO Daniel Mminele's exit. The trade union accuses the bank of making erratic decisions due to internal politics. Absa earlier this week announced Mminele's departure after less than a year and a half at the helm, citing differences with other executives. To discuss this further, I'm joined by Mudima Kekela, the General Secretary of SASBO. Mudima, good afternoon and thank you for speaking to us. It's obviously an exciting time when black South Africans are in these positions, but certainly not when, after less than a year and a half, they are pushed out, as is alleged.
Yeah, look, Hugo, it's very unfortunate of what we see to be starting to be a norm within our country and especially within the finance institutions. You will remember that not very long we had one about the African Bank, and now we've got one in the major bank, which is Absa, which is one of the biggest concern to us as the finance union.
So do you get the feeling that these institutions are employing black executives to tick certain boxes for a period and then it ends at that?
Look, what has just transpired is giving us a certain perception as a SASBO, especially given that when you hire someone of the caliber of Daniel, we believe that Daniel is one of the people that any other bank that it's serious about transformation will really want to have. But what we saw happening in Absa, it was clear that they wanted Daniel just for a certain period, for specific thing. And for us, it was just a window dressing. Because of all that they wanted to do was, much as they employed him, one doubts about the kind of a mandate that was given to him to steer the ship of Absa to make it show that it's steering towards the correct or the right direction. So for us, it's also what we've just said, it's just a matter of ticking the box.
Now, Absa has issued statements. Have you engaged Absa to find their position?
Look, we've engaged. I've engaged with the CEO of the bank, not the CEO, the chairperson of the board. And I must say that much as they've issued their statement to the employees and also from what we've seen from the press that, when they were interviewed, and even the engagements that we had with the chairperson of the board, I must say that the explanations that they were given, we are not satisfied as the union that they are genuine, and we are not even sure that they hold water. Because of what has happened, we believe that there is erratic, and we also believe that it was very unfortunate and it was done in a very abrupt, speed. That when we asked to say, was there any facilitation, was there any assistance that was needed for Daniel, when they realized that it can be that he was not doing what they wanted him to do, because of one other thing that was very disturbing that they've raised with us was that of the culture of the bank. And when you look at the culture of the bank, you'll realize that when the former CEO left the bank, we had two cultures in the bank. We had the culture of what the CEO of the time found to be in the bank. And yet when she was there, then there was this other culture that was introduced from Barclays Bank. So we had two cultures that were fighting among each other. And when Daniel came there, when we believe, as SASBO, that when Daniel was trying to now bring both cultures together and come up with what he believes it will be taking the bank forward, it's when he started to clash with so many people that still wanted to maintain or to retain both separate cultures to run the organization, which is very unfortunate.
Do you have an idea of the racial mix of the executives within Absa and whether or not this could have contributed to the challenges that Daniel would have allegedly faced?
Look, the chairperson of the board tried to give me the view and the complexion and the composition of the so-called the executive mix. But when you look at it, one thing that which is very disturbing is when they said that most of these executives were about to exit the organization just because of they were not satisfied with the way Daniel was steering the organization, but they could not really tell to say which of the races among the executive that they was really wanting to jump the ship, and of which we suspect that it can be that those who've got the entrenched so-called Absa sort of a way of doing things, those might have been the one that wanted to jump the ship. So, and we are not satisfied with the sort of executive racial mix. Because at some stage they told us about the 20%, the 40%, then whatever. But we have to say, let's consolidate. Tell us about the 20% and 40%. We don't really think that the 20, 40% and whatever, they all report to Daniel. Who is the direct line of Daniel? And when they told us to say, this is the direct line, then I can say to you, there's a lot to be desired today.
Now, generally, are these financial institutions accepting of black executives?
Look, I can tell you to say that the way things are now in this country, it's a shame. Because we can tell you to say we don't think there's a space for any black CEOs in this country, except one bank that has done it so extremely well, which is the Bank of the Blue. When you look at the Bank of the Blue, we know that their CEO has been there for a very long time, and there's a lot of confidence that the market has shown to the CEO in the Bank of the Blue. But these other banks, the other three, especially the big banks, we doubt if really they are for a black CEOs. They don't have confidence, and much as they don't have confidence, we believe that black CEOs in the banks are non-existent.
Now, as SASBO, what is your plan to deal with this? Because it can't just be for us to discuss. There's got to be some form of plan to move the agenda forward.
Look, unfortunately, is that the employment equity might be on our side. But the much as you've got the employment equity is a little bit difficult to want to, push the private sector, especially when it comes to their shareholding, especially when it comes to their boards. But one thing that one can say as the General Secretary of SASBO is that I think it's time for us as the unions to make sure that we infiltrate the boards where people like the boards that are anti-black executives, they have to be dissolved. As it is now, I can tell you that I'm calling for the dissolvement of the board of Absa because of their anti-transformation.
Final question, or thoughts rather, around institutions that are failing to adapt. What is that message that you would be sending out as Secretary General of SASBO?
Look, the message that I'll be sending out, in fact, we have to look with the government now. We have to start with the government, especially within the Prudential Authority, with the Reserve Bank, to say they have to really come up with some sort of a penalty that has to be imposed to these banks that does not want to transform. And we also have now to push the banks to say it's either they transform or if they don't transform, and then we have to call for the boycott of such banks by the public because of we don't think that we can have banks in this country that are refusing to represent the demographics of this country.
SASBO Secretary General Mminele, thank you for your time this afternoon.